Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the 35th episode of the Wowhead Weekly Podcast. My name is Panzer. I host Downtime Tuesday on Wowhead, and I am here with my lovely co-host, Perculia, who is the Wowhead site manager.
Hey, everyone. Awesome to do another show and love this Overwatch jacket.
I love your Overwatch jacket, too. I'm so jealous. I want one. What size? You have a small, right? It's like a unisex small?
I am the smallest size possible, so it's the extra small or a small, but it's unisex, so it's like a little too tight on my hips, but, you know, it works out. The arm is very cool.
I'll have to get a smaller medium because I have, like, crazy gangly arms. But we have a lot to talk about today other than my crazy arms and Perk's awesome jacket. First and foremost, we want to talk a little bit about the Twitch emotes that we have for the Wowhead podcast. We're so excited. I'm going to post them in chat real quick so you can see them. We have Wowhead Pepe and we have Wowhead Rocket. So now if you subscribe to Wowhead on Twitch, you'll be able to use those emotes anywhere. And the best thing ever is that you can actually, if you do like Pepe and then another emote really quick, it'll look like Pepe is sitting on someone's head. It's the best thing ever. And these were drawn by Noxy Chu. She's super talented, and we're really, really, really excited about the emotes. So we hope to see you guys subscribing and see them popping up in chats all over the place.
Yeah, and a little sadder news, Noxy Chu, with some company restructuring, is no longer with us, but she's still very involved in the Warcraft community, and she's going to be doing some cute graphics for Blizzard Watch, which is another awesome fan site, and we're very sad to hear the news. We're not involved in it, and Noxy is still the best.
Yeah, it wasn't even like on a Wowhead level. It was like way higher up in the company than that, but we're really happy that she was able to do our Twitch emotes, and hopefully we'll be able to do little bits and pieces with her here in the future. And we wish her the best of luck because we love her. We love her.
She is awesome. Very sad.
So.
But yeah, moving on to the PTR, which is more upbeat news.
It's true. There's some super cool stuff in the PTR this week. I think my favorite thing that I saw in all of the notes we put up this week, well, you put up, I read, you wrote, were the two new titles that are coming that showed up on the PTR. There's like Of the Jungle and Captain, and so you can be like Panzer of the Jungle and Captain Perculia, and I
like that.
I think stuff like that is super, super cool. And then there was some new shipyard rewards.
Yeah, I am super happy about them. If you complete 50 naval missions, which is called Seaman, you get an Admiral's Compass, which is a teleport to your garrison shipyard.
Yeah, so like shipyard Hearthstone. Yeah,
and I don't believe it shares cooldowns with anything, so it's basically you can hearth to the town hall or the shipyard, which is, it's not far away, like, oh my god, I'm a zone far away, but it's definitely, you have to run out to it.
I mean, it's nice because, like, I'm super lazy, and sometimes I'll be mining down in my garrison mines, and I'll get to the very end, and I'll just hearth back to my garrison.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
So it's kind of like you get an extra garrison Hearthstone, even though it's got a longer cooldown. I still think that I will find good use for it. Coming from me, that's silly, though, because I'm a shaman. so that's an extra Hearthstone to begin with, but, there was some other rewards, too, for 100. What was the one for 100?
You get a captain's hat, which we don't think you can transmog now, but it's this really cool, like, Admiral pirate hat that's, like, blue or red based on your faction. And, it looks pretty awesome. And it's very similar to the Bloodsail Buccaneer hat that you can get. And there's an even fancier version if you complete an achievement called Charting a Course, which is for doing all the really rare naval missions like the Left Shark one, the one that gives you a mount. And that hat is pretty crazy. We've got 3D models of it. There's like feathers and plumes and like crests and like logos on it. So that's pretty intense.
I hope that they change those for transmog. I hope that they're not just roleplay hats. I hope that they change them for transmog because...
Yeah, they have that cosmetic armor category, and, they added things like the hat from the Tillers to be cosmetic, or, have a version for, like, each, there's, like, a cloth, a leather, a mail plate one, so, hopefully they'll do that.
Well, there's already pirate hats that you can actually transmog, so I don't see what the logic of not having them be transmog would be. Like, no, you'd look like a ridiculous pirate. You already can look like a ridiculous pirate. So, and then I know a lot of people were really excited to see that on the PTR this week, you can name your ships, and you can name them anything you want. There's no filters. I'm gonna name all my ships, but
yeah, I named one of my ships was named Noxy Likes Butts. So tested it out. There's no filters whatsoever. Name them anything.
They're probably gonna have to change that. People will. Well, I guess nobody else can see your ship's names though, right?
Right.
So it doesn't really matter. They could be super obscene or innocent. You could name them like Bunny. kidding.
I was thinking of importing the ships onto the Wowhead profiler because we do that for followers, and I'm like, oh man, we're gonna get some really interesting sounding names. I can see.
Yeah, well, when you import, like, you can do your pet collection, right?
Yeah.
So can you see like what your pets are named?
I think so. I'm not totally sure how to.
On there.
Yeah.
Because I tried to name some of them, and they're like, you can't do that.
Well, maybe now we'll see a filter for ships in the future, you know. Hopefully not, but, you know, we ruin fun.
We ruin all fun. This is why we can't have nice things. And last week we talked a bunch about toys that were coming in 6.2, and one of the things we talked about was the personal spotlight toy, which shines a spotlight on you.
It's really cool. It lasts for an hour, and it follows you around. It's not like, oh, here's a beam, and if you're out of the beam, there's no beam. So that is
cool. I didn't realize that that's how it worked. But what's nice is that's actually going to be purchasable from a Garrison trader for 100 gold. And that could be a placeholder amount, but I hope it's not, because I like it when some of the pets or pets and toys and stuff like that are just easily obtainable, because not everybody has time to invest in stuff like that. But I think spotlights are pretty necessary.
Yeah, it's from the same new NPC that's going to be selling you the item level boost for your followers for gold, and Crusher, the new pet, and the new mounts, and those prices haven't been changing, so I'm pretty sure that this will stay a relatively cheap toy.
Yeah, I think that's cool too, because I don't feel like I have enough toys. Like, when I uncheck the toys and I see how many I don't have, I like want to go on these crazy expeditions to get them. But then I realize I'm super busy and don't have time to do that. And then I don't have a video clip of this, but it was pretty exciting that Tier 18 got their real stats put on their gear this week. So you can check out all the Hellfire Citadel pages on the PTR side of Wowhead. And did you have anything to add to that?
I mean, just so if people weren't aware, basically all the items were basically like primary stat plus a ton of versatility.
Yeah, they have
every single item
placeholders.
So, you know, now you can say, oh, you know, my tier 18 gear has a lot of crit, but not mastery, but like mastery is my attunement stat. Like, should I give dev feedback? And, yeah, you know, check all those out. And if you're, you know, confused with filters and whatnot, just go to the Hellfire Citadel zone page and it will show you all the items that can drop from all the bosses, like sorted by normal, heroic, and mythic.
Yeah, and if you are playing it all in the PTR, there is now an NPC that will sell you tier 18 gear so that the bonuses can be tested out, like the 2 and 4 piece bonuses. So, I mean, that's normal in every PTR, but it is actually there now, which it wasn't before. And then another cool thing that popped up on the PTR, and I actually do have a visual of this, is this 3-piece Archimond cloth gear set. Look how freaking cool that is.
Yeah, that is so awesome. I mean, it's so cool because, you know, obviously he's the end boss, and it's neat how Blizzard has this tradition that you can, you know, wear some gear that's from the end boss.
Yeah, I think it's super neat, and it's very Archimond. Like, I know we're looking at this on a male Draenei, but I still feel like, I don't know, it brings you right back to, like, Hyjal when you see that.
Yeah, in the post I made today on Wowhead, I have like an orc lady wearing the items, and then I compare it to the actual boss model for the guy in, you know, Hellfire, and it's like, oh, yeah, they do look similar. Archimond just is wearing, like, you know, boots or gloves or something.
Yeah, I think it's super neat. And then the last thing that I saw that you had noted on here, now I use mods like Garrison Mission, like add-ons like Garrison Mission Manager and stuff, but they're actually making it so that you can hit spacebar so that you can skip animations on your Garrison missions, which is super nice because so annoying.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice quality of life change. And, you know, it's like if everyone is like, I need this add-on to do it, it's like, well, maybe this should be something.
Yeah, exactly. If everybody's using an add-on, it's kind of almost like Gear Score was back in Wrath of the Lich King. Like, everybody used the Gear Score add-on, so they kind of just put it in game, because if everybody's using it anyways, what's the point of, you know, not including it?
Exactly.
And then we also got some information about Apexis crystals and, like, several changes. One of the big ones that we noticed was a lot of people had concerns. They had voiced their concerns about the Infernal Direwolf being an Apexis crystal sync mount, and we actually found out this week that it is not actually related to Apexis crystals at all. It's going to be a reward for Glory of the Hellfire Raider, and instead now the Reigns of the Corrupted Dreadwing, which is a flying mount, is showing as an Apexis sync model with no gold cost. But again, this could also be a placeholder. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's interesting because the Infernal Direwolf looks really cool. Like, it has the fell effects, but it's essentially another wolf mount.
Yeah.
While the Corrupted Dreadwing has this really unique model, like you can't get another version of it anywhere. So I can see being like, okay, you can do a little extra work to, spend the Apexes to get it. And I'm happy that there's no gold cost associated with it right now.
It is kind of crazy, though, that they would put, it just makes me wonder if flying is coming in the future. Not necessarily in 6.2, but the fact that they're putting like this huge potential of Apexis crystal sync mount, and it's a flying mount, like it makes me wonder, because if it's the only way you can earn that is by doing stuff in Draenor, so it's kind of an odd reward.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
That it doesn't fly, that you can't fly in Draenor, but this is a mount that is a flying mount. So I don't know if it's more to like future-proof the mount's cool factor, or if it's that maybe flying is somewhere on the horizon of Warlords of Draenor, which is another
can of worms. I think we'll probably revisit this topic later in the notes as well.
For sure. We also found out that all of the old Apexis crystal tiers are going to cost gold. Now the exacts are going to be the 630 gear will cost 1k, the 645 gear will cost 5k, the 655 gear will cost 10k, and the 670 gear will cost 20k, which sounds kind of expensive, but that correlates pretty well with auction house pricing of what pieces those eye levels would go for, which is a really nice catch-up mechanic if you have alts, or if maybe you took a break, or maybe you want to
have a bunch of WoW tokens.
Yeah.
Like, I'll buy WoW token for 670 piece of gear.
And then there also will be Baleful tokens available for 5,000 Apexis crystals each. Now, the Baleful tokens that you buy with Apexis crystals will be soulbound. There will be Baleful tokens you can buy or you earn in your shipyard that will be bind on account. That's correct, right?
Correct. One of the devs clarified that with me because I was looking at the PTR. I'm like, whoa, like, do these items get changed? And he's like, oh, no, they're both called Baleful right now, but they are, like, two different types of items.
Are they both 650?
Yeah, I believe they are now.
Okay. Yeah, that's not bad. That's better than Heimal LFR.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that they really want you doing the current content for this patch. So, more power to them.
Yeah, and then there's also a way to upgrade Baleful, right?
Exactly. It's the Empowered Apexis fragment, which last PTR build was something like 20 gold, which was an obvious placeholder. But right now it's 20,000 Apexis crystals. Yeah. And that turns your Baleful item to item level 695. So that's really good. That's like Hellfire normal.
Yeah, that's really good. No.
And it's like, it's like the timeless it's like the timeless IL pieces where like you'd open the chest and you'd get the item and then you click it to get something for your class
and your spec.
It has like the two secondary stats vary, but like you'll always get like agility if you're a rogue and stamina.
That's super nice though that you can get the Baleful tokens from the shipyard and then you can upgrade them with Apexis crystals. Yeah. It's definitely a really nice way to be able to catch your alts up without spending a ton of money. Like you'll have the option to buy 670 gear for 20k gold, or you can grind out Apexis crystals. And it's funny because when they made it so that you could redo the Apexis crystal dailies over and over again, I was like, who would ever want to do that ever? Why would you do that? And now I get it. There's like so many good things that you can do with that now. But aside from Apexis crystals and aside from the changes we talked about earlier, Perk also found a couple memorial items that are going to be in game in 6.2. These are both Blizzard developers who unfortunately passed away recently. There's going to be an NPC for Kevin Griffith, and that is an NPC in Undercity who's labeled an art teacher, and he's named Kanai Griffith. And Kevin Griffith was actually an artist for Diablo, so it's very fitting. He did other games too, but I think the bulk of his art was Diablo, so very, very fitting. And then I'm sure there's an inside joke that I wish I got for this, but there's going to be a squirrel toy for Scott Kohler in Southern Tanan, and it's super, super cute.
Yeah, you get this toy by talking to an NPC named Scholar. So Scholar, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but it's, it's like...
it might be Scholar. Now that you say that, the flavor text said he was a gentleman and a scholar, but it was spelled that way.
Yeah, because it's S for Scott and then Kohler for his last name.
Yeah.
And he's this guy who's surrounded by squirrels, and you can't like fight them, but they're elite battle pets, so that's kind of cool. And he has this really sort of, touching dialogue option, and if you, accept it, you just automatically get this toy. So there's no like fancy money or like killing things or battle pets involved. You just get this toy. And so far, you channel basically you channel like throwing nuts on the ground for 30 seconds and the squirrels come out and eat the nuts.
That's so cute.
So I feel like the animation can be beefed up a little because it doesn't totally translate well into screenshots. I'm like, oh, there's a squirrel and there's like a little black dot. But it's a really cute tribute. Maybe they can add a few more squirrels just to beef it up. But
I wish that we knew the story behind that, because I'm certain that there's like an inside joke involving squirrels behind that. And I know like Kevin was major artist, so it makes perfect sense that they put him as an art teacher. But I really like that they do stuff like that. It kind of just shows that Blizzard really cares about their employees, and there's like community members and all sorts of stuff that they reference in games. So I just really like that they do that. But unrelated to 6.2, the Mystic Rune Saber came out this week, and it's a pretty freaking cool mount. That's not it. That's Archimon. There we go.
Archimon would be a cool mount too, though.
Oh, jeez. We could piggyback ride around on him. This costs $25 or 20 euros. It can be gifted, and it actually is a flying mount. It has really cool flying animation and wings, and you can purchase it via the in-game shop or in the BattleNet shop. And like we were talking about earlier with the mount that you may be able to purchase for Pexis crystals, was it an odd choice for it to be a flying mount?
Yeah, exactly. Like, the wings are awesome, don't get me wrong. They're really cool because if you fly into a zone that has, like, tinted lighting, the wings kind of change color, so they could be, like, pink or green or blue. But I found it a little strange that for the promotional images used, on, like, the launcher and whatnot, there was an image of a flying mount.
Yeah.
And the Rune Saber, it wasn't just, like, flying anywhere, but it was flying in, superimposed in Shadow Moon Valley, which you cannot fly in. And I know people had similar concerns when the Grinning Reaver came out, back when Warlords was really new, and they're like, hey, loving the expansion, but how come this mount's flying in Spires of Iraq? And it's like, okay, well, now that people are antsy about flying, I don't know if this was the best, choice.
It's just an odd promotional image, but again, maybe this is a little more like tongue-in-cheek that flying is coming, and that's obviously just speculation. There's no data to support that. It just might be a little hint that they're dropping, or maybe we'll never fly again.
Yeah, maybe it's like some unrelated guy who's like, oh, cool, I've got this image of a mount, and I need a zone that's purple, and these go well together.
Yay! It's funny, though, because they could have just stuck it in... Oh, my hair. Oh, my gosh, my hair. They could have just stuck it in Shadow Moon Valley in Burning Crusade, and it would have been fine.
Yeah, exactly.
And that would have worked fine. But the thing I'm actually most excited for coming up in the future, I mean, this is 6.2, but it's mostly just the future in general, is the bonus event system. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
It's... Yeah, go ahead. Explain it. I'll let you explain.
Okay, yeah, sure. The bonus events we previewed sort of here and there before, but they were officially put into the patch notes this week. So, it's a more definite sense of what's coming. And the bonus event system is a rotating schedule of 7 different activities granting a passive bonus to a particular game activity. And in addition to getting this passive buff, there's a quest you can do like once per weekend with a noteworthy reward for accomplishing a related goal. And you can check out all the bonus events on the calendar to see like what's up this weekend, what's going to be up next weekend. And right now we know what 6 of the events are going to be. We don't know the last one, but the 6 of them are pretty cool, and the quests are, pretty good, we think, as well. Do you want to go over some of them?
My mic was muted.
Okay.
Like Ferg said, there's kind of like a passive bonus as well as an active like bonus for every different event. So there's one for Draenor Dungeons, and the passive bonus is that you get extra reputation, and then you'll be able to do a quest one time, and if you do 2 mythic difficulty Warlords dungeons, you'll get the Iron Fleet chest, which is kind of like right now you can do your garrison missions, and you can get the Blackrock Foundry spoils. Is that what it's called? I can't even remember what it's called, but you know what I'm talking about, where you get the heroic piece of gear.
You get your raid gear.
Yeah, so you'll get a piece of raid gear, essentially. The one for Battlegrounds and Arenas is almost identical. When it's time for Battlegrounds, these are 2 separate ones. One is for Battlegrounds, one is for Arena Skirmishes, but what it'll do is it'll give you passive bonus honor, and then when you do the actual quest to do your battleground or your arena skirmish, you will get 500 conquest points. But the cool part of that is that they don't count towards the weekly conquest cap.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was kind of a very thoughtful change, because there's a lot of people who cap out on those every week, so it's you're really earning additional. It's not about getting it quick or easy. It's about getting extra. Then there's also the Apexis event, which will allow you to kind of passively, anything that will drop Apexis will drop extra Apexis. And then you'll be able to do a quest, which will give you a good amount of oil for your shipyard missions. And the best one is the pet battle one. Sorry for being biased, but when I read this, I like squealed a little bit. You'll always earn like 3 times XP during these events when you're like leveling up your pets. But the best part is that if you complete the quest, which makes you, I think, defeat 5, you have to win 5 pet battles. You get
it's at max level 2. We just got that data, and it's like, oh yeah, you have to.
So you have to be that's fine. That's fine. So if you win 5 max level pet battles, you will get an ultimate battle training stone, which is the one that instantly levels any pet of your choice to 25. And that's super exciting because right now the only way you can get that in game is by getting a new level 100 and getting your menagerie to level 2, I think.
Yeah, it's tied to your garrison, so you have to keep doing it and clicking on that stone by the mine and going back and forth. So that's pretty cool. I wonder what the last one is going to be. Like, we've had 6 so far.
Well, it's got to have something to do with time walking, right?
Oh, no, I think we talked about 5D. We've got the dungeons, time walking, arena battlegrounds.
But that's the Draenor dungeons. It's the Draenor dungeons, the battleground, the arena skirmishes, the Apexis crystals, the pet battles. So the 6th one has got to be the time walking. We just don't know what the bonuses are.
Right. Oh, no, I meant like if there's 7, then we know 6.
Oh, if there's 7. I'm sorry. I like brain. Things are hard. I wonder what the 7th one is because it's covered pretty much everything PvP related.
Yeah,
raid related.
Yeah, that I'm thinking it could be. I remember I saw this one quest in the data, we didn't make too much of it, but it was like, oh, if you do Iron Maiden successfully with like very cleanly, like you get this like special Khadgar thing. And I'm like, oh, yeah. So
I hope it's raid related. That would be really nice because raiding is like people who do raid it is really a big investment of time.
Right.
And especially when you get towards the end of the not the expansion, but the end of the patch, like right now, you're kind of raiding and I haven't gotten a piece of loot in weeks. Like, you know what I mean? You're sort of raiding to help everyone else out or to gear out alts, but you kind of lose that momentum of feeling like you're progressing. So it would be nice if one of the bonus events was raid related. It's not raid related though. Well, it kind of is Leeroy Jenkins.
Yeah.
And he
was awesome.
Yes, he turned 10 this week. And for those of you who haven't seen the video, I'm just going to go ahead and play the video for you.
Okay, guys. These eggs have given us a lot of trouble in the past. Does anybody need anything off this guy, or can we bypass him?
I think Leeroy needs something from this guy.
Oh, he needs those devout shoulders? Isn't he a paladin?
Yeah, but that'll help him heal better. He'll have more mana.
Christ. Okay, well, what we'll do, I'll run in first, gather up all the eggs so we can kind of just, blast them all down with AoE. I will use Intimidating Shout to kind of scatter them so we don't have to fight a whole bunch of them at once. When my shout's done, I'll need Anthony to come in and drop his shout too, so we can keep them scattered and not to fight too many. When his is done, Bass, of course, will need to run in and do the same thing. We're going to need Divine Intervention on our mages, so they can AE, so we can, of course, get them down fast, because we're bringing all these guys. We'll be in trouble if we don't take them down quick. I think it's a pretty good plan. We should be able to pull it off this time. What do you think, Abdul? Can you give me a number crunch real quick?
Yeah, give me a sec. I'm coming up with 32.33, repeating, of course, percentage of survival.
Oh, it's a lot better than we usually do.
All right, thumbs up.
Ready, guys?
Let's do this. Leeroy Jenkins!
Oh my god, he just ran in.
Save him.
Oh, geez, stick to the plan.
Oh, Jesus. Let's go.
Stick to the plan, Shove.
Stick to the plan.
Oh, gee. Oh, fuck. Give me Divine Intervention. Hurry up. Shout. I can't cast. I can't move. Am I lagging, guys? I can't move. What the hell? I can't hear you. Oh, my God.
Just keep saying that. More responding.
I don't think you can cast with that shit.
Oh, my God. Shout. We got it. I got it. Pick it up.
Come on, stay down.
Oh, my God.
God damn it, Leeroy.
God damn it. Leeroy, you moron.
Leeroy.
Jimmy.
This is ridiculous.
I'm on it. Don't mess. I'm down, forking down. God damn it.
This is before I can read on this. God.
Oh, Spiffy, res us.
Why do
Spiffy,
you
res
do this shit, Leeroy?
I'm trying.
It's not my fault.
Who's soul stoned?
We do have a soul stone up, don't we?
Anthony, you got soul stone?
Warlock.
Oh, God.
Oh, for...
Great job, Alex.
Something
For
like
Christ's sake. Leroy, you were just stupid as hell. Over there.
At least I have chicken.
I feel as though I probably should have given you guys a language warning before I played that. I thought about that as it was playing, and curses were I would like to think we're all adults here.
Yeah.
But I apologize for all of that language. I should have warned you. But pretty fantastic. Pretty fantastic. So for those of you who are unaware, that is a 10-year-old video. It came out in 2005, and it's still kind of up in the air over whether those were real events or whether they were staged events.
Yeah, I think that the people in the guild were saying that it was a stage reenactment of an actual event that happened that they didn't catch on camera, and it was so funny that they had to do it again.
Yeah, pretty amazing. And there's so many things that have come of this silly video. I mean, it's obviously one of the best known memes associated with World of Warcraft, if not the best known meme. I mean, it's been all over the place. It has been on Jeopardy. There was a question on Jeopardy about Leeroy Jenkins. There was a Toyota Tacoma commercial that referenced Leeroy Jenkins. There was an episode of The Daily Show with Jon Stewart where he referenced Leeroy Jenkins. I mean, it's kind of like one of those things that's just sort of synonymous with World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
And Leeroy has just kind of bled everywhere into Blizzard games. I mean, there's a title, and then they even revamped the title for Cataclysm, right? Or Warlords.
Yeah, and again for Warlords.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
It came out originally in Cataclysm, and then the new one came out in Warlords. There's a title, and there's an achievement. There's also a level 100 epic follower that you can get from Upper Blackrock Spire, which is so incredibly fitting.
You had to, you find him dead, and you, revive him, and then you have to do part of the instance quickly, before the chicken timer goes off.
It's so great. I think my favorite part about him as a follower, though, is that he's wearing appropriate paladin gear, except for those stupid cloth devout shoulders.
Yeah,
so it'll help him with mana. It'll help him with
cloth
heal.
paladin.
And then also he's a legendary card in Hearthstone. So he's all over the place. He had a card in the physical trading card game as well when that was a thing.
Yeah, the art of him is really popular. I believe they reused that for the Hearthstone cards. So, yeah, he is everywhere. And apparently, I think on the Wowhead comments I read that if you have him out for your garrison invasion, he's really good DPS. So that's kind of funny.
That is kind of funny because he's a healer, kind of. I don't even know what he is. The whole thing was so troll. I know he was a healer, but,
he's a ret paladin as a follower.
Yeah, he's a ret paladin as a follower. So good. And then there's a bunch of new stuff on Wowhead too. Aside from 6.2 and aside from things that are coming up, there's a bunch of new stuff going on in Wowhead. So I'm going to flip it over to Perk so she can tell you a little more about that because that's certainly her area of expertise.
Cool. So last week we talked a little bit about how we were getting our garrison ship database all up to speed, and we had the ships done. And we did a lot of work this week on the other things related to the shipyard. So the coolest thing is that the garrison ship calculator is up and running. And if you've used our calculator on mission pages, it's the same thing except it works for ships. So you can see how much a ship's trait, increases success, or if a ship is rare versus epic, or if you really want the left shark mission, you can, play around with the ships and find the right ship combination to hit 100%. So all of that's really cool. And there's no more weird data where the follower missions were showing ships on the PTR and vice versa. So that's pretty cool. And as I just mentioned, with the ship abilities, we did some more work to make the ship abilities easier to find and separate them from the abilities that your followers get. So you can now sort abilities by equipment type and crew instead of, the ability and trait categories, which don't totally make sense for ships. And the tooltips are also updated as well. So if you are reading this cool sounding ability and you're like, oh, how do I get this? Is it on every single submarine, or do I have to buy an item to teach me this? You can find that out. And finally, we have the Garrison Naval Missions database all set up, plus filters. So, we've just tweaked the existing missions database to better show information that's unique to ships and, hide some of the follower-specific data that you don't need to see when you're browsing a ship mission. So we're very excited about that. We have a few more things to do with filters, and like I mentioned, being able to upload your ship collection to Wowhead, but we made a lot of progress this week.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited for the shipyard. I think it's going to be a really fun feature. I mean, I like garrisons. I like the idea that, like, if I have 5 minutes to log on, like, I can actually accomplish something in that 5 minutes, whereas prior to garrisons, it was just no point if you didn't have a solid amount of time to invest in World of Warcraft. So I'm excited for garrison shipyards for sure. And then this week, we also got a bunch of information from Ian Hezekostas. I tried. How bad was it?
Well, his nickname is Watcher, so that's a bit less.
We'll go with that.
Yes.
We got a bunch of stuff from him this week. There was a whole interview with him on VentureBeat, and then he also answered a bunch of questions about the Legendary Ring. Which one do you want to talk about first, Perk?
I think let's talk about the Legendary Ring, because it's like very item-y, and we just did Wowhead.
Yeah, sure.
So,
let's talk a little bit about that Legendary Ring then. And there was a lot of controversy about the Legendary Ring, and there still kind of is, because the procs are shared. Like the all of your DPS share one proc.
right.
It's just an interesting.
It's very different.
It's very different. It's a very different way to handle it. So I'm gonna let you explain a little bit about it, so that I don't screw anything up.
Okay, so the first question I was asked was sort of, why do the rings have a raid-wide effect compared to other legendaries? And he was talking about sort of the lore behind rings, like what's the nature of the ring? You could talk about Captain Planet or the rings for the Dwarf Lords or how you wear 2 rings at the same time. And the idea was that rings are paired with counterparts, and that's why they wanted to have sort of this group idea of the ring coming from the lore that rings are something that has shared power. And he did say that this is not a template for the future legendaries, but it seemed to work well for this one. And then he dived into some more, meatier stuff, not like lore-based things. One of the questions was, will people use these mechanically on cooldown, and is this boring? And he basically said that yes, it will be used on the pull, but the cooldown is short enough to where you can wait a little to sync it up with interesting cooldowns and phases. And he actually gave some Blackrock Foundry examples, which I think were pretty helpful. How, on Blast Furnace, it might be wasted if you use it on the pull. You might want to wait for the second pair of operators to use it instead, or the second phase when the Elementalist is vulnerable. So that was, I thought that was a pretty good reply, and, giving practical examples can help. Another one was, is it fun gameplay if another player controls a legendary proc? And the idea is that, you're getting this legendary mostly by doing stuff in a group with other players, and if you coordinate this, you can avoid proccing the legendary at a bad time. Now, he did address the LFR problem because, if someone's trolling LFR and they use it at a terrible time, that's bad, but the idea is that LFR will be tuned so where using the proc at the right time versus the wrong time is not going to, account for a wipe. And finally, he also addressed the itemization. How is it okay if the procs or the stats are better or worse for some specs than others? And the idea was that, they're meant to be interesting and unusual. The items would be less sort of interesting and compelling if they were just like a carbon copy template for every single person, giving them the exact same benefit. So, they're like, yes, it's better for some specs, but they want to make more interesting and cool items that could, be a little better for more specs than others in the future and sort of continue to do that. So, share the love around, one spec can aim for certain items that are, a little bit better for them.
Yeah.
So I think, one more thing. Hellfire Citadel is not being tuned around having the ring.
That's good.
So, yeah, that was the final nugget of information there. And, they expect cutting-edge progress to occur without the legendary rings in the raid, although obviously you will be getting them during Hellfire Citadel.
That's so bizarre to me, though. Like, it's really, really weird that they're not tuning. Like, I feel like there's so much up in the air about Hellfire and where it is in the, in the timeline of Warlords of Draenor. So if this isn't tuned to the legendary ring, is there going to be another raid that is there going to be something that's going to expect
like a Halion?
Yeah, is there going to be something that's going to expect you to have the legendary ring? And the rings are eye level 735, 135. Sheesh, that would be bad. They're eye level 735, but you can actually, or it's speculated that you will be able to slowly level them up to 795.
It it hasn't been officially shared yet, but we did see in the data that there's like all these versions of the rings attached to that ring, and there's a spell being like, oh, upgrade this up to 795.
Yeah, so it's just a weird situation. I'm really looking forward to having them come out and using them, but I don't know. I like feel like I want that to be a requirement for endgame rating. Like, I don't want to see like mythic bosses being downed and people missing the ring. I don't know why. I guess that's just a personal thing, but
I mean, I can see that. I guess they also don't want people being like, oh, I ran this a crazy number of times and I tried to do 500 garrison missions in one day to proc the item I needed to complete this to get my ring so we could be world first. So I guess they don't want to have that sort of complicating or tainting the world race or being like, oh, well, this guild got RNG and this mission showed up at the shipyard and this is why I got it done.
I mean, that does make sense. That the RNG factor does make a lot of sense. But Watcher actually gave us a lot of information this week that didn't have to do with the ring as well. He did a whole interview on VentureBeat, and he talked about all sorts of things. One of the things that he talked about that I thought was really interesting was the increase in subscribers when Warlords of Draenor came out and right before it came out, and he said that they were really excited about it, but they needed to be even-handed. And then a little later, he talked about kind of how subs go up and down, and that's to be expected. The words he used were inherently cylindrical, so that kind of like infers to like a rotating thing, like people come and people go, and it's not that big of a deal. He also said that the WoW token brought no drastic change to subscriber levels, and I thought this was particularly interesting because in the financial report, the Q1 financial report, one of the things they actually said is, oh, we expect subscribers to go up with the WoW token. This is so exciting. And it's so bizarre to me that they would say, oh, well, it actually didn't do much of anything. Just like 2 days later, like it was so close. So I just wonder at what point is he is he referencing that data, I guess. He also talked a little bit about raid sizes in Warlords of Draenor. He talked about more people are doing organized raiding things and cross-server raiding and flex raiding, and more people in general were being able to raid because of all of these different ways that you can raid. And while LFG has made things so much more convenient for people who couldn't raid before, like people aren't forming the social bonds the way they were like an expansion ago or 2 expansions ago. But it has combated how much spamming used to be in trade chat for people just trying to find groups. So it's kind of got like its positives and negatives. Yeah, like you can find people quickly, but then you can just leave quickly with no responsibility. Yeah, with no responsibility. He also talked a little bit about mythic raid size, and he said that right now he's really happy with the balance for the encounters, but they do wish that they could make it flexible because 20 is a tough number for a lot of guilds to get their hands on. So I mean, your guild is in that like heroic to mythic transition where it's like it's okay if not everyone shows up for heroic, but then on mythic it's like you need those people right there. Well, the problem is my guild has about like when Heimdall was out, we were raiding with about 22 people, and then real life happens, and it's just the way it goes. We have a lot of people that are college age. This is a tough time for people in college. They're doing finals and stuff like that. So we're down to about like 13 to 16 people raiding on a normal basis, and that's not enough for mythic, but we're clearing heroic, but we just don't have enough for mythic. And recruiting when you haven't actually touched mythic yet is difficult when you're like, oh, we want you to come do solid progression with us. Doesn't that sound fun? So it's definitely tough, but I do think like the way that the raid difficulties were presented at BlizzCon was that like flex normal would be flex, and that heroic would be normal, and then mythic would be heroic. But I definitely think that the difficulties are tuned differently. Like I think that normal is harder than flex was in Mists of Pandaria, and I think that heroic is definitely harder than normal by like I think heroic is vastly harder than normal was. And the way that it was kind of presented a year ago or a few months ago was that, you know, they were almost going to be equivalent difficulties, and that I definitely think that mythic is harder than heroic was. But that's just my personal opinion. He also talked about some of the shortcomings in Warlords of Draenor, and one of the big things he talked about was 5-man participation being down. And that was... What was the reasoning he cited for that? There was the removal of valor points. You know, that was a currency where you could buy, you know, epic items in, you know, every other expansion, and they were sort of equivalent to like normal of the current tier, but you know, that's all gone. Yeah, that's a good point. You did used to be able to, especially that was Wrath era. That was I mean, they had it in other places.
Badge of Justice. It's,
badge
it's
gear and stuff. So I mean, they did kind of have it with Apexis, but because you had to invest so much into it, it didn't feel as worthwhile as Valor and badge gear did.
And Apexis is like soloing, while with the other tokens, like you have to do the dungeons to get the gear, so you raid. But with the Apexis, it's like, oh, I'm farming Apexis so I can get a higher item level and not actually go out and interact with the group.
Yeah, and I know they haven't done this in a while too, but I almost wonder if it has anything to do with, like, back in Burning Crusade, the last boss always dropped an epic, and that was also the only place you could get, like, epic gems for a while. So I almost wonder if taking out those rewards has anything to do with it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that has something to do with it, and I know when in the Mythic Dungeon patch notes, they're talking about how the last boss can drop loot that's maybe a higher item level, so that's something. But that's just Mythic, and I think on the lower level of things, pugging a five-player dungeon versus leveling up followers and sending them on a garrison mission to get eye level 630 or even 645 gear, like, it just is way more appealing if you can do, like, nothing and get better gear than, feeling scared that you're a noob and this group wiped and they're going to kick you and you're doing things for 40 minutes straight versus nothing. So I think, less garrison, more dungeon.
Yeah, and the rewards are just not necessarily balanced to, not saying that 5-man heroics are obscenely difficult or anything, but maybe the rewards aren't quite balanced. And I do think it's an interesting change of pace that in 6.2 we're going to be seeing the Mythic 5-mans with better rewards, and maybe we'll see an increase in 5-man participation. But there wasn't a lot of 5-mans this expansion, nor were there really a lot of scenarios. So the smaller groups of content, we just didn't see the numbers that we did in previous expansions. Not that I have a really big problem with that, because honestly, once you get semi-geared, most people aren't really doing dungeons anyways. It was more of like a catch-up mechanic for your alts.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think some people did enjoy, like, the scenery and the lore, and if there's, like, a quest where you save someone, it's like, oh, this is easy, I know how to do it, let's do this thing, and I can, like, sort of like going to, like, the dance steps or a routine or, like, an exercise.
I always did.
Yeah, it's more fun.
I always did the daily dungeons in Wrath. I feel like that was something I remember doing. Like, you'd go into that area where it was right in front of the dungeon entrance. And
the Violet Hold,
the Violet Hold. On one side there was heroic, and on one side there was regular, and it was always an exciting day. Yeah, it was always an exciting day when they were the same, because then you can just run one heroic and do both of the quests. But I think that making the dungeon rewards kind of automatic when you do randoms and being able to do them right in a row, I think it took some of the like the feeling of
do something daily.
Like you just felt like just picking up a quest and handing in a quest is kind of part of World of Warcraft, and like taking that simple little mechanic out, I'm not sure if that has anything to do with it, because there's obviously dailies you can do with your inn, but are the rewards worth it?
I think it also helped pace out burnout. Like, if someone's like, I must do my 7 dailies right now today, it's like, oh god, I'm sick of dungeons after I did 7 in a row. But like, some people will try to feel like they're compelled to do everything at once if they can. Well,
and the time I'm talking about, because obviously Looking for Group was something that was introduced in the end of Wrath. But in the beginning of Wrath, that was a very popular thing to pug. Like, everybody would do, even if it was a terrible dungeon, even if it was like the Oculus, you know what I mean? Like, even if it was one that nobody wanted to do, people still did them every day because the rewards were worthwhile, especially if the two happened to line up and be the same one. It was never really that hard to find a group, and it was fun, and you could find people on your server. And like on my server, there was always like the same few people that did it every day. So it was just a nice social feature. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it. And I know a lot of people have blamed garrisons on the social loss in World of Warcraft, but I would definitely be more apt to believe that it has more to do with LFR and LFG and stuff like that removes you from speaking to people, because like I kind of talked about.
Yeah, no accountability in LFR.
Yeah, no accountability at all. And like I kind of talked about earlier, one of the things I really like about garrison missions and what I'm going to enjoy about shipyards is that I don't always have an hour to log on and do something, but I can log in real quick and just reset my missions, and it's worthwhile. I'm going to get some gold, I'm going to get some salvage yard stuff, and Watcher actually talked about this in that interview. Yeah. He said that garrisons are encouraging people to play when they only have a short time to play, when they wouldn't have logged in at all either. So it doesn't necessarily correlate to being like, oh, well, people aren't playing because garrisons are lame kind of thing. What he's saying is based on their data, they're actually seeing people who may not have been able to play otherwise are able to log in once or twice a day just to get their garrison stuff done.
I mean, I've definitely seen people on Twitter say things like, oh, I can't just complain about the garrison because if I'm tweeting that I'm logging in twice a week to check on my garrisons and just the garrison, well, I wouldn't, if there was no garrison, I wouldn't be logging in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think there could be a nudge. So it's like, hey, instead of, obsessively checking your garrison, you should go out and do a group activity. I think there should be like a nudge to get you out after you spend those 5 minutes doing it.
It would have been nice if the inn sort of gave out quests the way that it was back in Wrath, where you could do dungeons and get like a really good reward, like maybe just a random cache, so there was a chance to get kind of anything out of it. Like maybe you would get some kind of crazy raid reward, maybe you would get some potions, maybe you'd get gold, like you never know, and just something that would make it worthwhile. And then like you'd have people visiting your garrison to come get that daily quest, you'd have people doing it together, and maybe they could add some rewards in, like where if you all queued up from the same garrison to do that instance, that you'd get something bonus out of it. I think there are ways to tie the garrison in with social features, and I'm hoping that that's something with the whole like shipyard and Tanan thing. I do think that's something they're trying to do, though.
Yeah, like I think it's interesting how when you go to your hub in Tanan, it's a shared hub. So like if you're picking up the Apexis daily there, you're picking it up and you're seeing other people.
Yeah.
Or if you're like going to an NPC to do the garrison campaign, you don't go back to your town hall, you go right there. And if you take the portal back to the rest of the zone, it's not to your garrison. And I think it's important because it actually did go back to your garrison at the start of the PTR. But now it's like, no, you have to go to the capital city instead. So there's more like social interaction.
Or like just seeing people like, oh, I'm actually playing an MMORPG, not just a regular RPG.
It's like, oh man, this guy with the Infernal Tire Wolf, I want that, versus, all your followers being like, yes, I love you.
I do really enjoy stuff like that. Like I invited someone to my garrison to do something. I don't even remember what. Like they had a trader, I had a trader that they wanted, and they were on the challenge mode Yeti mount, and I was like, yes,
I want to do challenge modes.
I want to do all the challenge modes. That's so cool, because that still by far is the coolest mount of this expansion. I care not what you say. That is the coolest mount. And then Watcher also in his interview also talked a little bit about some of the 6.2 features coming up, including time walking dungeons, which, just a quick recap for those who might not know, time walking dungeons will actually allow you to scale back to do BC or Wrath era dungeons, and they'll give you bonus rewards that are for your current level, the maximum level. There'll also be the Mythic 5-mans that are coming up, which are going to give really good rewards. There's the new raid, Hellfire Citadel. It's a 13 boss raid, and it has some really oldies but goodies in that raid, like Archimond, who I keep calling Archimond, but I'm working on it. I'm sorry.
I will make a note as well.
Then there's the whole new quest hub, the Tanan Jungle, which is a very interesting, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, but aesthetically speaking, Tanan is crazy. Like there's just all sorts of environments and biomes. Like I swear you walk like 100 yards away and it's like you're in a different continent.
Yeah, it's not like the Timeless Isle where it's like, oh, it's all the same jungle except there's a hut here versus and Ordon Mob.
It's an island.
Yeah, exactly.
Still, it's crazy. Like there's these, and I think what's really cool about it is it was done so thoughtfully. Like some parts are fel infected, and then as you get further away, they're less felly, and then you kind of start to see what the environment looked like before whatever the hell happened.
Right.
So, which I think is really, really interesting. Then of course you have the full garrison expansion, the shipyard, which is super fun. There's also the adventure guide, which we do not know that much about yet. It's kind of an incomplete feature, right?
Yeah, I mean, it feels kind of basic now. I feel like there's been more talk about it for what, it's sort of basically a page in game, and there's a lot of hype around it.
Yeah.
But basically, it's a new front page for the Dungeon Journal, and it gives you little tips on stuff you might want to do in the game for your item level, kind of similar to Wowhead's Planner, which you can see right on the top of the front page. Mm-hmm. And based on your item level, it will recommend a raid or a dungeon to do, and from there you can easily click to queue for the raid, to read more about the raid in the Dungeon Journal, and it recommends a sample piece of loot that might be an upgrade, so you can then browse the loot for it as well. So it's like, if you don't know what to do when you're in your garrison, it can be like, oh, I should go do these things.
Oh, yeah, that's a good way to, kind of like, oh, what should I do? I'm going to do this thing. I hope that it's good recommendations, though, because I know in a lot of games when things are recommended, like, the example I'm going to use is League of Legends, but it's only because it's the first thing that comes to mind. But like, if you play a champion on League of Legends, the recommended items are not the best items to use. So I hope that in the adventure guide that they really are mindful of things like, crit being better than haste for certain classes and specs and stuff like that, because you wouldn't want like a newer player to be using this and kind of think they're learning and be learning the wrong things.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're still polishing it, and that's why I haven't gotten into, so many details.
Which is
but
good.
I think the basics right now are just like, you can be like, BlackRock Foundry's the new raid. Here's a big button to queue and do this raid with other people. By the way, it drops a sweet dagger.
By the way, here's a sweet dagger. Exactly. And he also one of the quotes that was really interesting on the article is that he said it's almost impossible to have enough content in a patch. And that what 6.2 represents is iterations from our existing systems, polishing things, using lessons learned from 6.0, adding new content in that model. So he's kind of just saying, like, the whole idea of developing games is that you live and you learn, and like you're never going to be able to have enough in one patch to please everybody, which I think is important to keep in mind. One of the things that me and Perk have talked about a lot this week is like mounts, because if they come out with this crazy new mount that's a completely new model, it's flashy, it changes colors, and it's not a store mount, it's just like you can go earn it, people are going to say things like, why did they spend all of this time and all of these resources making this mount when they could have done X, Y, or Z? But then if they don't come out with that mount, people are like, oh, every mount is reskinned.
Like the Tanan rare spawn mounts.
So it's, it's funny though, because I am so obsessed with that stupid boar with the tiki armor. Like, I think I'm the only one that's happy about this, but I think
awesome.
I think re-armoring the same mounts is really interesting. I think it's a useful, like, I'm big into getting as much bang for your buck as you possibly can. And those wolf mounts are beautiful. Like, I don't really care that there's 97 different versions of them.
It's like,
I want all of them.
Ones to all your trans.
Yeah, match
like sometimes it's like, oh, I like this mount, but I wish it was like green to be like fell corrupted for my, transmog. It's like, oh, well, now there is a version.
And there's like little differences about them. And if you're someone who really appreciates details, like when I saw those two boars, like one of the boars was super orcish, and he had these big like tusks, like he had ripped them off of something, and all of his armor was like leather and iron and broken and and then you put him next to almost the exact same boar, but kind of a different color, and all of his armor was wooden and feathers and tiki masks and skulls and voodoo. Yeah. I just think that's interesting because, like, yes, they're the same boar, but like realistically, if all of these, horde tribes are settling in different places, like there's not going to be 80 million different animals that they can ride. They're riding boars, okay? And then they're
like, we never had a boar mount before, so it's like, hey, just... it's like everyone loves when they have their racial faction. It's like, I want to show my Night Elf pride. I will buy like every, tiger mount in the game. And it's like, well, okay, so, just have the same thing for boars. Like, no one complains that there's like recolored, faction mounts, and that, in Ice Crown, you can buy the Champion Seals ones and they're just, they're, more reskins. And people are like, more variety, more personality. So
it doesn't bother me that much. I don't know, especially considering we're getting this whole new questing zone that's so aesthetically varied and all over the place. Like, I would rather them spend time on a quest zone than a mount. Not that it's the same people, but you get it. You get what I'm trying to say.
I think that ties into the whole polishing things using lessons learned in 6.0, how we're talking about how we really like the questing zone, and there initially were parallels to like the Timeless Isle when 6.0 came out, like, oh, there are treasures everywhere, and people kind of flipped out because Timeless Isle had some issues, and you can see how they improved, like they kept some of the Timeless Isle qualities, but they improved it from the actual Timeless Isle into 6.0, and now in 6.2 it's like, oh, well, the zone, like, different areas of the zone look really different, and the Timeless Isle look the same. Or, like, it was boring to open a chest and get this item for your spec, but now in Tanan, you have to, like, actually do something for Apexis crystals or do the naval missions. Like, it's just, you can see how they're improving on that system.
I agree. I'm just very much excited about it, and I try to keep the mindset that they can't please everyone, and I'm definitely a very optimistic person who's a little bit blinded by my fangirl loyalty, and I would be the first person to admit it, but I would rather be someone who's excited about everything than somebody who's grumpy about everything. So and before we wrap up, we may as well ask if the chat has any questions, and I know a few people have been saying that we're lagging a little bit. I don't think it's us. I checked all my settings, and Perk is actually coming through perfect for me on my end. So we should have a really good VOD this week. I'm sorry that Twitch is giving us some issues. I will look into it for next week to make sure everything is spot on my side.
Yeah, we actually restarted the stream at, right after we did the intro. And we're like, oh, is this us? And then we checked like Twitch's page, and it's like, oh, every data center is down.
Yeah, so. And I ran a speed test on my internet too, and I have really good internet right now, so I have no idea why it's like, I'm sorry. I don't know if it's just because it's a Friday and everybody's like, yay, we're streaming. But someone asked, More Heroism asked, do you agree with the feedback on Watcher's interview and that he is out of touch with the state of PvE?
I mean, like, he is a lead game designer, and his background was first in achievements and then in, raid design. He was an encounter designer before the title. So, I mean, I think a lot of people, people are always going to complain about stuff, and I think that I think he's obviously very much in touch with PvE. Yeah. That's his background. Like, that's what he does every day. He did make a tweet that he can't address every single question in an interview.
Obviously.
And, obviously VentureBeat was curious about certain things, and he answered them. But, I mean, like, he's a raider, he plays this game.
Yeah, and I definitely think that, like, if complaints were to be made about World of Warcraft, I don't think it would be fair to come from a PvE standpoint. I mean, Tanan Jungle is getting a whole new questing and rares and treasures, and there's all new things to gather, and there's all new things to craft, and there's definitely, I don't think that PvE, that there hasn't been a new battleground, there hasn't been a new arena, I don't think that PvP is as prominently
there's the arena tournaments, but there's not like casual beginner, hey, let's get into PvP things that are as obvious as raids, dungeons and zones and all that.
Yeah. We got another question from oh gosh, why do I do this to myself? Hikanjia? Okay.
That's a good try.
And it said, thank you. Would you like Draenei or Ogre Force Focus before the expansion ends? The Twitch is moving and I can't see it. Before the expansion ends, it seems like it could go both ways. So I think he's asking if you would prefer to see more Draenei stuff or more Ogre stuff.
I would just say more Draenei because I think the lore is more interesting, and Ogres kind of had their spotlight with Highmaul.
Sure.
And with the Draenei, it's like, in the current timeline, there was like the bones were, paved in, hellfire, and it's just, there's just, Shadow Moon is all corrupted, and it's very different in Draenor, so I think that's a really interesting lore angle to sort of compare and contrast.
Well, not to mention Ogres have a very limited vocabulary. Like, they're not all that interesting.
It's like very jokey. Like, there's a legendary ship mission that's like, retrieve, like, the ogre item from their sunken fleet, like they sank because their boats are made out of stone.
Yeah,
it's just sort of like a one-note humor, and you can't do that.
I agree. Someone else said, "Oh, where was it? I just saw a good question and it's scrolled up. I'll keep looking."
There's one with Ryan Overall I can answer quickly. It was, do you think we'll briefly be teaming up with Grommash to take down Hellfire Citadel and Gul'dan? And there's, based on PTR testing, what people have been tweeting today, actually, he is showing up in some screenshots in Hellfire Citadel. So
interesting.
I don't want to say too much in case it changes, because that's just interesting development, but yeah, that is something.
Yeah, so, well, thank you guys all for your questions. Thank you for sticking around and watching us. I know that it's been a little bit laggy today, and I promise I will do my best to get that all worked on, but the VOD should be fine because everything on my end looks really smooth. And I appreciate all of your feedback about our volume and stuff, and we'll get that worked out. I also just realized while Perk was talking one of the times, I don't know if you guys noticed, I got a little bit louder. When I tried to turn my mic up earlier, I turned it down, because I'm good at technology. So it should sound a little bit better now. But do you have any final words, Perk? Are you ready to wrap it up?
Subscribe to Wowhead for the awesome Rocket and Pepe emotes, or Wowhead Premium on the site for no ads, and you can move the front page blocks around and customize it. And yeah, awesome support either way.
Yeah, thank you so much. And to everybody who subscribed today, thank you. And remember, those are emotes that you can use on any channel. So if you're watching anybody else play and you are subscribed to Wowhead, you can put Pepe on their head. And that's a pretty amazing feature. So we are going to head out. If you were watching the VOD, pod. Let us know in the comments section below if there are any questions you would like us to answer next week. And thank you again so much for tuning in. We film this show live on twitch.tv/wowhead every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, or around there.
Yep.
So we hope you will tune in the future. And that's all the things. We're going to go. Have a great day. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Goodbye. Bye.